Mr. Deputy Speaker, sometimes it is difficult having to respond to the submissions by the member for Naparima. Because you see, the whole submission seems to be one of rhetoric. The screaming, the shouting, and the only person believing any word he is saying is himself. I'd like to start by the last set of screaming and shouting about, come to Naparima, come and walk with me, leave Port of Spain, come and see the poverty, come and do this, come and do that. And I smiled, because not too long ago, in a full page of a newspaper that is the main support system for the United National Congress, the same sunshine that Naparima talks about and tells his leader, sunshine is what dealt with COVID. And then when he's battered for it, he runs and hands the member for Carney Central, not Carney Central, Carney East, Dr. Gopi Singh, and hands him his phone. So look, read this article, Israeli Sunshine. The same Sunshine newspaper had a full page on Naparima that for 5 years, not a constituent could see him. Not a constituent could find him. They can't get help from him. They don't know what he looks like. But again, he has the gall, the audacity to stand up here and tell us about, come and walk in Naparima. He can't even walk in Naparima. He should tell the whole country about his representation as a member for Naparima or lack thereof. He sits here now in the final 11th hour of this parliament session, begging, please let me back in. They don't want you in Naparima. They don't want you in here. They don't want you anywhere. The next colleague he has, the colleague from Princestown, missing in action. Mr. Princestown was another one who used to come in here and scream and shout and bawl and wail. Well, he wailing in Miami now.
Deputy Speaker, we are not here to debate MPs. We are here to debate a motion.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm responding.
Hold on. Overruled. Again, on both sides have entered into this situation into the debate. Proceed.
Thank you very much. You see, it is always so difficult for them to sit and hear anything that sounds like the truth. I'm ashamed to say that the speaker before Naparima was talking about the handling of COVID-19. The country has already decided. The country has already decided because the international critics, the international analysis, the objective analysis is, thank God for the way COVID-19 was handled in Trinidad and Tobago. And the Ministry of Health and their experts and my colleague, I repay the compliment. Because I have seen Minister Diyal Singh work with the Chief Medical Officer and all of the public health experts. And we came under tremendous pressure by those in the opposition. Because those in the opposition from the... And look at Naparima, of course, getting up to go and run and so sunshine again, I'm sure. But the medical health, public health experts are to be applauded for guiding the government of Trinidad and Tobago in the manner that they did. Because you see, this government, under Prime Minister Rowley, listened. And no amount of screaming, no amount of attempts at distracting the population. Because the objective test and analysis is, as at this day, the 22nd of May 2020, we are one of the only countries in the whole world that does not have a current positive test case in our public health care system. Trinidad and Tobago, take a bow. But you see, that didn't happen by VAPS. That didn't happen by Vaikivai. That didn't happen waking up one morning. It was very carefully handled from the word go, from the time the virus appeared in China. The Minister of Health and his team managed every single move in this country. Unfortunately, the leadership in government listened. The cabinet appointed the Prime Minister, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of National Security to work along with the health experts, to listen to the science, to take the right decisions. And that is why we are here on the 22nd of May, finally in a position with a period of a passage of one of the cycles of 14 days with no new positive cases. So all of the criticism is ill-founded. We have managed the situation well. We are now into another cycle where we are reopening different parts of the economy. It's not easy. You come under pressure from all sorts of people. But once again, you have a strong, fortunately for Trinidad and Tobago, you have a strong government that is prepared, and we have shown it, to take the difficult decisions. At every step of the way, the lobbying takes place. Because you see, everyone believes it should be about them opening and not somebody else. But we know the pain taking place. We know what is going on. And that is why from the word go, there were multi-sectoral committees set up. There was a committee on education, a committee on how to deal with it financially. The Member of Parliament for St. Joseph and his team leading on the health side. Let's social development and social services, a tremendous job. Everyone played their role. And that is why we as a country here today can start to do the things that we're doing. And I listen here again at the attempts to mislead the population about the 400 nationals who are on cruise ships and they're not being that. Absolutely untrue. I have spent the afternoon communicating and corresponding with some of the owners of these cruise lines and working out who would be the first batch allowed in. And in the next few days, we in Trinidad and Tobago, because we are fortunate to find ourselves in the position where we have no current positive cases in our public healthcare system, that we can start bringing people back in from the cruise ships now. In the meantime, we're working on bringing those back from Venezuela and still some from Guyana. It is a managed process. You don't compare us to Jamaica. I always have a pain in my stomach when I have to listen to some of the submissions on the other side. They're always quick to compare to this. Look at St. Lucia, look at Jamaica, look at the United States. You know what? When we were discussing today in the meeting with the Minister of Health and the Chief Medical Officer and myself, and we were discussing the managed phase of re-entry of citizens, I asked the question, what is going on in Jamaica now? And I was shocked. Over 800 positive cases in Jamaica compared to none. But I want the population to know that is where Naparima would have taken them. He talks about St. Lucia, same thing. St. Lucia's revenue dropped from $110 million a month to 30. Their public servants have had to take 75 to 50% cut in their salaries. Not a public servant in Trinidad has not been paid their salary. Not a public servant in Trinidad has lost their job. And that is because of how this government has managed the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And kudos to the Minister of Finance and his team at the Ministry of Finance, because this is not easy moving from a budget deficit of $3 to $5 billion predicted, as he told us here the other day, to now between 15 and 16 billion. But again, absolutely no break in a public servant getting their salary paid at the end of the month. Absolutely no complaints with the Ministry of Health and the services that they have provided. One of the only countries in the world to successfully set up a parallel healthcare system. And this is the truth. This is the irrefutable truth. So to come here and talk about gangrene and to come here and talk about, this wasn't absolutely untrue. But the behavior of those on the other side, always crying down Trinidad and Tobago. Never a good word to say about Trinidad and Tobago. And as a patriot, that irks me. I wasn't going to speak today, but when I heard what was flowing on the other side, I asked for the opportunity to join, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Because you see, as someone who has been given the opportunity and the responsibility and the duty to play a leadership role in Trinidad and Tobago, I take great umbrage to what I've heard from the other side this afternoon. As the Minister of National Security, I was charged with the responsibility by my cabinet colleagues to handle the exemption process. It is not easy. It is not easy receiving the email every single day, the messages every day from people pleading, my son is here, my daughter is there, persons who are sick, who are ill, and to hold the line, knowing that we're managing our healthcare system and our quarantine, our state quarantine system. All of those are parts of the formula of why we are successful here in Trinidad and Tobago, amongst the top 5 in the world, I dare say, in how COVID-19 has been managed. And all of the screaming and shouting and that we don't know what is going on the ground, completely untrue. Unlike some of those on the other side who may not even know where their constituency boundaries are, who are constantly being chastised by their constituents about not being there. Our members of parliament, in addition to our governmental duties and responsibilities, are ensuring that our offices are open and we're getting to the people and we're helping where we can. This is not an easy situation for anyone. It is not an easy situation for any member of government. It is not an easy situation for the Minister of National Security to have to read literally hundreds of requests for exemptions, of parents saying their children are here. We're getting requests from Russia, from India, from Australia, Central America, South America. But knowing that ultimately the duty that we had to carry out was to protect the population in Trinidad and Tobago. Because you see, what they want the country to forget is COVID-19 wasn't born here. It was imported. And every single case of the 116 positive cases that we had here was imported. So you have to close the border. You had to shut it. No amount of lobbying by anyone got us to change that. So the crews, the members, the nationals on the cruise ships, as I said earlier today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, every single one of them will return. All of our nationals outside there, every single one will be allowed to return, but in a managed process. You see, it is not a UNC-type free-for-all. As one of my colleagues previously, I think it was the member for St. Joseph, reminded us, just before the election in 2015, they had a fire. And you see, the UNC has this attitude that the Treasury is their personal pocket. So they just dip here, look, give everybody $1,000, give everybody this, give everybody that. And what we faced when we came in was a Minister of Finance who came to us and said, we have enough money for 3 days. And we've managed through that. He talks about the energy sector. I want to remind the population that the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Member for Siparia, who was a Prime Minister of this country, they want to talk about energy. She did not even know the shareholding composition of Atlantic LNG. They had a Minister of Energy who had no clue if he was coming, if he was going. I don't know even if he could spell energy. He did not negotiate a single energy contract. The only energy contract he negotiated was CGCL. And as we came in as an administration, we had to go and renegotiate that with Japan because they gave away everything. They jeopardized the whole energy sector by promising that plant gas over companies that already had contracts. Let this country not forget for a single second, a moment, the state that the UNC left it in. Let them not forget how they pillaged National Gas Company, $14 to $16 billion in cash. Let them not forget that that highway that they were building to Point Fortin, they used cash. So don't come here and pretend. And you know, it was funny, as I was sitting there, people were messaging me that they had to put the TV on mute because everything with the UNC is a should have, a could have, we would have. The blue economy, the pink economy, the purple economy. They destroyed the economy. They borrowed money to put in the HSF fund, and they want to talk about the HSF fund. Under us, the fund grew. The investments grew, even though we had to dip in it. It grew. They mismanaged the economy. Remember the Beetham wastewater plant? $1 billion in cash for Mamu. David Rudder is a prophet. David Rudder sang a song, I going to Panama. And that is Mamu. That is how they manage things. Naparima standing up, spinning a wheel. He could ever come here and tell us how to run anything. He couldn't even run the wheel. They were unsuccessful in everything they did, apart from damaging Trinidad and Tobago. So, let the country make its own decision. As the international objective analysis outside there has done, as to how COVID-19 was managed. And this next narrative that the member for Couva North had the audacity to come with here earlier, to start a whole new narrative now, because what they want is they want the country to be burdened with sanctions by the US. So the member for Couva North here comes now with some false narrative about Iranian ships coming to Trinidad. I don't know where they get this from, but every single time a member for the UNC opposition stands up, all they do is attack Trinidad and Tobago and seek to destroy Trinidad and Tobago. That is all that they do. So thank God Naparima is rejecting, the constituency of Naparima has rejected the member for Naparima. Thank God for that. Right? So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I stand here today and I reject the motion from Caroni Central. Not a single shred of evidence was put forward by any of their speakers in support of how the government mishandled COVID-19. And I know it bothers them, because it must bother them that the population recognizes and thanks. And we're moving into different phases. Yesterday, we began phase 2 earlier than we expected, only because, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of the proper management of COVID-19 by the government, listening to the scientific and medical expert advice. So a whole new line of businesses opened up yesterday. And as the Minister of National Security, I want to thank the frontline workers in national security, in addition to all of the frontline workers in health who had to undergo that scary time of dealing with the positive cases. The police service, or Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the Coast Guard who are out there every night. And you know, they have this way, Mr. Deputy Speaker, they have a counselor down in Cedrus, and it is the most, I was about to use a word I shouldn't use. He makes these submissions that are just incredulous. I saw him on the television the other night saying, well, if the borders are closed, how come they're catching people? If we had the OPVs, we would be able to do a better job. But the fact is you're surrounded by water. I don't know if the UNC understand that. There is not a fence or a wall. I know who they like to follow. But there is no fence and wall that you could build around Trinidad and Tobago. So kudos to the Coast Guard and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the radar system and them working with the limited assets they have and the success they're having in protecting Trinidad and Tobago. And that is happening. The policemen and the defense force men and women who are out there every day, every night, trying to keep people within the confines of the regulations. And I make a plea, because as I was sitting there, the Commissioner of Police was reaching out about people congregating. And I remind the population about our regulations. No more than 5 persons congregating together in public spaces. These are designed based on the medical evidence and input of science to protect the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And we will continue to do so. I feel sorry for the UNC, because it can't be easy sitting there, seeing a government manage a global pandemic in the manner it has been managed.
Remember, you have 2 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Seeing that amongst the whole world, our small island of Trinidad and Tobago has done such a remarkable job that today we are one of the only countries in the world that could stand proudly and say, at this time, because it could still be out there, it could still be in our population, and as we begin to bring people back, there is the risk of importation. As we begin to let nationals come back and entry into Trinidad and Tobago, there is a risk of importation. It is not easy. The Minister of Health can attest to this when we have to sit in a meeting with our health experts and give consideration to how to move forward next. But we are one of the only countries in the world, objectively, that could stand there today, and we have a proper testing system, and say we have no positive cases. The member for Caroni East made a statement that irked me. He said there is no community testing. I don't know how they could stand up in the hallowed halls of Parliament and tell and provide misinformation. Community testing has been going on for weeks. They've increased the testing. We set up our own testing facility, and we have CARFA. So why must they come here time and time again and just spread misinformation that is not grounded in any truth whatsoever? So in conclusion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the population, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, stand proud here today, knowing that each one of them played their own personal part in getting us where we are today, that we can stand and say we have no current positive cases of COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago. And that in itself is a remarkable achievement.